God message today. Whispers of the withering light. They called her sister Ellerin in the valley of glass winds. Not a nun, nor a healer by title, but a woman who had stood in the tide of ending breaths longer than most have stood in love. She walked not with urgency, but with the weight of wisdom pressing through her bones, like rain soaking into ancient clay. I met her once, not in a lecture hall or in the sterile corridors of a clinic, but under the hush of lanterns where souls pass quietly between realms. And she said to me, "Child, death is not loud. It does not roar. It does not announce itself with black wings and howling storms. No, it leaves breadcrumbs." She had seen it hundreds of times, and not just seen, felt it, woven into the slowing pulse of those nearing the river's edge, etched into the last unspoken thoughts of the nearly departed. "There are signs," she whispered, "but you must know how to look." Sign 3. A stillness not born of laziness. Let me start here with the silence. Not just the silence of voice, but of motion. There was an old watchmaker named Barrick from the hill of whispering cedars. Every dawn he walked the stone trail behind his cottage, coffee steaming, mind ticking like the gears he worshipped. He called it the clockmaker's prayer. But one morning the path was undisturbed, the mug untouched. I asked him, "No walk today, Barrick?" He smiled gently. "The wind doesn't call me anymore." There was no wind. He was already listening to a softer breeze, one only the soul could hear. This is not laziness. This is the body beginning its sacred withdrawal. The muscles don't ache, they remember. And in that remembering, they begin to rest. What should you do? Trade the marathon for a melody, a warm cloth on tired feet, a hand rested on their shoulder. Let your presence be their pilgrimage. No pressure, no command, just love. Sign 1. The fading flame of persona. Now let's speak of minds unwinding, not broken, bending. They called her Mara of Eldridge Hollow, once a firestorm in human skin, professor of poetry, corrector of grammar, debater of thunder itself. And then one day, stillness. She smiled through her silence, and when I expected her usual critique, she looked at me and asked, "Are you sleeping enough, child?" That was her beginning of farewell. Her daughter, Letha, told me later. She just sits and watches the shadows move over the hills. She doesn't fight anymore, doesn't argue, just listens. It wasn't sadness, it was detachment, a quiet walking away. Psychologists call it pre-terminal emotional withdrawal. I call it the soul leaning toward home. Not confusion, not dementia, just the human spirit easing itself out of the armor of ego. Don't yank them back with noise. Sit beside the quiet. Ask about stories, old ones, forgotten ones, because in this space they may speak the things they never dared say. This is when secrets surface. This is when truth is soft enough to touch. Sign 4. A flicker of the mind's lantern. There's a moment, strange and holy, when the mind lifts like a phoenix, only to descend into mist. Families ask me, "Why was grandmother so alert yesterday, laughing and telling stories, but now she doesn't recognize us?" Because the mind, too, says its goodbyes in waves. There are flashes, bursts of lucidity, where the veil lifts and light pours in, then fog, then night, then fragments of dreams tangled in reality. They speak of rivers, they see brothers long past, they talk of journeys not yet taken. These are not hallucinations, these are glimpses. The soul rehearsing its return. Do not correct them. Don't insist they come back. Instead, enter their garden. Follow the thread of their story. Ask what the river looks like, Ask who stands on the other shore. You might learn more than you ever imagined. Sign 2. The gentle closing of appetite. In the land of Maris Hollow, there was a warrior named Enzo, not a fighter of men, but of time. He had survived. But one evening, he folded his napkin and said, I think I don't need this anymore. No fever, no diagnosis, only the body beginning to let go. Not starvation, not depression, it's design. The body releases what it no longer needs. Digestion first. Don't force bites. Don't turn meals into battlegrounds. Offer fruit, warm broth, honeyed tea. Let food become poetry, not pressure. When they decline, do not despair. They are not dying that day. They are beginning to listen to the music on the other side. Sign 5. The invitation to remember. This final sign is not physical. It is an unseen bell tolling in the spirit. They begin to remember and invite you to remember too. They ask about old lovers, mention names you've never heard, ask to hear a hymn from their youth, request a walk to the orchard where they first kissed someone beneath moonlight. This is the soul dusting off its history, preparing to carry only what matters across the veil. It's not confusion, it's curation. Listen, write it down, ask more. Let them become storytellers of their own exodus, because in those stories you will find the pieces they leave behind for you to carry. So if you've walked past the door of someone in their final chapter and felt unsure what to say nothing. Sit, breathe with them, match your heartbeat to their slowing one. Let your silence be a choir. Death doesn't knock, it whispers. It drapes itself in gentleness. It is not to be feared, but witnessed. And in this witnessing, you become holy too, not because you saved them, but because you stayed. The meadow beyond the silence. In the town of Bramblethorn, where the winds don't howl but hum like lullabies, I sat beside a woman whose mind had begun to loosen from the threads of time. Her name was Lady Aurea, age 92, once a scholar, once a mother, once a flame. She looked out the window, eyes soft with dew, and whispered, My husband came by today. He was wearing that old navy coat. But Teron, her husband, had passed through the veil 22 years earlier, and yet there was no sadness in her voice, just stillness, just peace, like a child resting in the lap of memory. I didn't correct her, didn't tell her what the calendar said. I just sat down, took her delicate hand, light as linen, and said, Maybe he stopped by for a little visit. And in that moment, we both walked into her world, a world made not of facts but of farewell. What should you do when they speak of spirits and sunlight? Don't tug them back into your timeline. Don't command them to snap out of it. It's not confusion, it's transition. It's the spirit loosening its grip on the visible so it can begin to dance with the invisible. Walk with them. Ask about the memory. Ask what he was wearing. Ask what music he played when he came, because in their stories you will witness how heaven gently touches earth. Use music, the old songs from the vinyl days, the ones that made them fall in love. Bring in scent, the lavender oil they used after a bath in 1956. Photographs, not to remind them of who they were, but to honor what they still carry. Because the mind may forget your name, but the soul never forgets love. Sign 5. When the spiritual door begins to open. Let me tell you something now, not from textbooks or training, but from the sacred confessions of the dying. They know, they feel it, long before a machine detects it, not with heart monitors but with the shifting of their gaze, the way they pause before saying goodbye, how their fingers trace invisible patterns in the air as if writing final prayers on the walls between worlds. I remember one such man, Master Daylon, an old painter of saints and storms. He once painted portraits for bishops and emperors. When he arrived at our clinic in the Crescent Wing, he said to me, "Don't call my sons. I need silence before my last brushstroke." He found a scrap of newspaper and with trembling hands drew a single door, half open, sunlight pouring through the. He titled it Departure. And the next morning he walked through it, peacefully, silently, like a sigh returning to the mouth that first breathed it. In the Northern Gloam Hospice, they ran a study. Over 82% of those near death saw vivid dreams, a mother long gone offering tea, a brother from the war smiling on the porch, a soft light, not clinical, not fluorescent, but divine. Don't call them hallucinations. Call them rehearsals. Call them bridges. Call them what the soul builds when it's ready to return. And what should you do when your grandmother reaches toward the air and says, "Mama's here"? Don't panic. Don't shush her. Don't say, "She's not real," because she is realer than anything in this room. Be present. Sit by her side. Let her talk to the unseen. Your presence is not to pull her back, it is to hold space as she steps forward. The story I will carry into the next life. I once knew a man named Sir William of Frosthaven. He'd loved one woman for 64 years, Lady Ezra, a poet with wild silver hair and a voice like folded silk. When he was admitted to our ward, with his heart slipping into shadows, the doctors gave him weeks, but Ezra said, "No clock will separate me from him." She moved into the hospital room, didn't leave, slept on a narrow cot, ate from bent lunch boxes, prayed in whispers, and on the final morning, Sir William had no strength left for speech. Ezra took his hand, gently, like it was the first time again, placed it over her heart, and read the poem they had once spoken to one another under moonlight. "You are not gone. You are just quietly walking to the meadow where I will one day follow." And when the last line fell from her lips like a final kiss, he exhaled, not in pain, not in fear, but like a feather surrendering to the breeze. There were no screams, no monitors beeping wildly, just stillness, as if heaven had opened a quiet door and whispered, "Come." And if you're reading this now, it means you care. It means the fire of compassion still lives in your chest. And I need you to hear this. If you live with an elder, a parent whose hands once held you like gospel, a grandparent who taught you the meaning of time, and you notice the signs, don't panic. Death doesn't arrive like a thief, it comes like dusk, soft, gradual, beautiful, if you know how to see it. When the appetite fades, don't force food. Offer soup, not sermons. When they forget your name, offer presence, not panic. When they speak to the unseen, offer reverence, not correction. Touch them. Hold their hands for a long time. Touch is the last language the body understands, and sometimes it says more than all your goodbyes combined. And I'll leave you with this. I once asked an elder named Maestra Marit, 95 years wise, as she lay among white sheets and stories, "Are you afraid of dying?" She laughed softly, the laugh of someone who'd wrestled time and made peace with it. "No," she said, "I'm only afraid I won't stay lucid long enough to say thank you." That day, she had her nurse call every one of her 12 grandchildren. She blessed them one by one, by name, offered love, forgiveness, poetry, and once her final blessing was spoken, she closed her eyes and drifted into the sky. So, if you hear them say, "The meadow is calling," don't close the door. Sit by it. Be the wind that carries them there, because the quietest signs, the ones wrapped in silence, in faded glances, in dreams of old friends, are the ones that shout the loudest truths. Not every goodbye is spoken with words, some are written in light. God bless you. Type yes if you believe in God. Type 111 if you believe in God.